Hi, in this video we're going to look at section 2.2, which is mouse events. So mouse events literally are functions that are built into Python that will be triggered to run whenever you press the mouse and then you release it. Two different functions, on mouse press and on mouse release. So let's just dive in. I've shared a file with you. If you go into your sandbox and you click on the hamburger and click open, and the first file I've shared is called a mouse demo starter. So if you click on that, you will find this code. So before we run this code, let's just maybe chat for a moment about what we think this code will do as it runs. So by the way, this code that's not inside one of these two functions is what we call top-level code. Remember that programs run sequentially from line 1 to the last line of the program. It turns out this is really a one-line program. This other code here are definitions of the functions, the actions to take when you press or release a mouse. And they can be run many times over. I mean, every time you press the mouse, one or the other of these will run. So our one-line program says draw a red circle. Now what we intend to happen is that when you press the mouse, we're going to maybe change that circle to become a smaller, radius 50, a smaller blue circle instead of the original red one. And then, as long as we're holding that mouse down, that blue circle is there. When you're holding the mouse down, it's just like you're in a pause and wait mode. But as soon as you release the mouse, then the mouse release function will run. And now what we're intending to happen is that that circle goes back to the larger red. So what we want to happen is that we see a red circle. Then when you push the mouse, we see a smaller blue circle. And then when we release the mouse, we again return to the larger red. Let's run this and check that that happens. So I'm wondering, as I look at the screen here, where's my inspector? I would like to be able to verify the center and the radius and the fill color of this thing. We're used to seeing a little information box up here. There's a note in section 2.2 that reminds you that whenever there are mouse functions defined in your program, and we do have them here, that the inspector is hidden. And you can make it visible just by clicking the control button, which I will do on 3, 2, 1, now. All right, so I'm hitting the control button, and there's all that information that I know that I need. All right, so I'm going to run the program, and I'm going to click on the mouse down. On 3, 2, 1, mouse down. So there's my blue, but wait a minute, I don't want to see the red. I just want to see that smaller blue circle, and I want that red to just kind of go away, right? Well, there is no go away command in Python, so we have to employ a bit of a trick, which involves using variables. And what I mean by that, let's put the inspector back up again, is that when we assign one or the other or both of these circles into a variable name, then we can control all the properties of those shapes. So we, for example, can individually change the radius of the larger or the smaller, and we can also individually change the color or the fill color of the larger and smaller. So if you think about this for a moment, you can't really make this red circle disappear. But what you can do is change its fill color from red to none, so it will completely blend in with the background. So let's explain what we mean. We've really got two distinct circles here. We've got a smaller blue one and a bigger red one. And all we really want to do is just control their visibility. So in order to access and be able to change their properties, now remember their properties are just the values of these variables, right? We need to, in a sense, dump this circle into a variable. So I'm going to call this one big, and I'm going to simply say I've given this bigger red circle a name. It's called big. Likewise, I'm going to have a smaller circle called small, and I'm just going to copy and paste this guy here. Now, normally we're going to say this is going to be blue, right? And if I run this program right now, oops. Oh, I missed the C. We're going to see, well, what we saw happen was we put the blue down, we put the red down, and then right on top of it we put the blue. So let's actually go ahead and make this the smaller one, 50. I forgot to do that. All right, so there's both circles. What we intend is that originally we don't want to see the blue fill color, right? So let's go make it invisible. So we're going to change the fill to a none. Students, that's basically a trick to make your object non-visible. So let's try that. There it is. So there's a blue circle here. And if I click the inspector, you can see that there's a radius 50 and a color none, right? That just means you can't see it. Now, if we redesign our program a little bit, what we're really saying is, get rid of these. We're not going to keep redrawing these circles. That strategy just didn't work. What we really want to do now is just change the properties of these circles. So whenever you press the mouse, we're going to say we want big, which right now has a fill color of red. We're going to change that to none. So that one will become invisible. So the way you access the fill color is this is a new idea here. The name of the circle is big, and the property that we're controlling is fill. So we say big period fill. In other words, to access the big circle's fill property, we use this notation. And we can set fill equal to whatever we like, none, in this case. Also, when we press the mouse, right now the small circle, remember, has a fill of none. We're going to switch that to the blue. So we're just kind of playing a game here of visibility. Now, likewise, we kind of need to reverse this. When we release the mouse, we want to go back to normal. So here we'll say the big.fill. When we release the mouse, we want to see the red one, so we'll put it back to red. And when we release the mouse, we want the small blue circle's fill to be invisible again, so we'll put that back to none. Remember, that was our starting condition. So this gets a little tricky, but you just have to wrap your head around changing the properties of circles instead of trying to recreate them every time. Because as things are overlaid on top of each other, that's probably going to mess up your intentions or your design of your program. So let's run this and check that it works. So here's our inspector. We can see that we do have the two circles, and all we're doing now is, as I click the mouse, nothing happened. Hold on, what do we do? So there was no error here that the compiler found, but I just forgot to put the period big there. All right, let's try that. And of course, what I meant was a small.fill. Okay, I need my third cup of coffee. Let's go. Run this thing, and there it is. Okay, so we're going to see this kind of thing happen in all of the exercises in 2.2.2 and 2.2.3. So just be aware that's what they're asking you to do. So while we're here, let's take a quick look at one of these exercises. How about the push pins? Most of you are there. So the idea here is when you run this program, when you click the mouse, you're going to put a push pin, push pin, push pin. So you can't see anything in the inspector right now, but I'm going to make a pin and just leave my mouse alone and hit the inspector. Now, here you can see that there are two circles. So the lower circle is a black with a radius of 2 at a Y value of 130. There's an upper circle here. I'm going to push the control button again, Now it's a crimson circle with a radius of 5 that's at a y value of 110. So let's just look at these two y values. The x values are the same, 219. How far apart are these two circles? That's going to tell us how long to draw this little line here, right? So in every single case, doesn't matter, pick one of these push pins. The circle's y-coordinate on the lower is, in this case, 206, and here it's 186. Here it's 130, here it's 110. So the y value on the top of the push pin is 20 less than the y value at the bottom. Now remember, when you click the mouse, the current XY location is what's dropped in those X and Y parameters for the mouse press function. So the current X and Y numbers here would be on the bottom right, 158, 125. And there they are. So 125 and 105. They're 20 apart. So when we look in this exercise, you're asked to define the event that happens when you press the mouse. So I'm not going to write the code for you, but I'm maybe going to remind you of the three things that you've got to draw. So you've got to draw a circle, and there's some things in there. You've got to draw another circle. There's two circles there. They have different centers and different radiuses. And then the third thing is there's a line. So you fill in the details, but for the line, you're going to start the line at these two parameters. I'll help you with that part. So the line goes from mouse X to, the coordinates of one of the points of the line is mouse X and mouse Y. In other words, it's your current mouse location. But the second point is, remember we said these lines are 20 units tall. So the X coordinate's the same because they didn't change horizontally. They're just changing vertically. So what we need to see is that the first point is mouse X and mouse Y. That's where I am right now. The second point, the Y coordinate's 20 less. So literally, you can do this in the argument list here. Just subtract 20 from wherever you were a moment ago. That will draw the line of that length. And of course, you have to continue with the rest of that. All right, that was my hint for that guy. And finally, let's just look at one of the exercises here, the sun and moon. And I've also shared a file with you to look at. It's called, in the sandbox, Sun and Moon Starter. So if you do a file open, Sun and Moon Starter code, I have shared that with you, and there it is. But here's the actual exercise. So what they want you to do is when you click on the canvas, but don't release the mouse, look at what happens. So this is a little bit tricky, so just watch carefully for a moment. If you press the inspector button and just click here once, you can see there really are two circles. So the mouse up and down action here is just changing the visibility of those circles. We also have a canvas, the rectangle, the bigger rectangle, changes color. So here's what I need you to see, everyone. This sun, which is now a gradient color, orange and yellow, that circle is still there. You can see the outline of it. But when I press the mouse to make it daytime, this circle's color has changed from a midnight blue to the gradient yellow gold. So if I let go of the mouse, now that circle is blue, now it's gold. That's the sun. But notice there's also a moon. So the moon is also just a circle. It has the same radius as the sun. It's a radius of 100. It's just offset a little bit. It's not the same center. So when we run this code, all we're doing is changing the properties of these circles. So they give you the code actually. We've already defined the sky is this rectangle, the moon is this circle, and the sun is this circle. So to create the effect you're looking for, just follow these steps.